All right, welcome to the St. Patrick's Day version, March
Oh,
17th, 2022 of the Hingham Historic Districts Commission. This meeting of it is called to order as of 6:32. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12th, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. There are 5 items on the agenda. There are 5 voting members. Oops, my screen just blanked out. Carol, Catherine, Dan, Justin, and myself. Are there any conflicts of interest for any of these 5 agenda items?
No.
no.
All right. So those 5 will be voting members for all agenda items. We can start with number 1, Mr. Zaccardi. We have seen you before. We're back on for 3 Blaisdell Road.
Hope you're all doing well tonight.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Would you like us to put your plans up so that you can talk us through them?
Would you like them to put the plans on?
Sure.
Okay, we'll put them on the screen. Miss
Okay.
Tracy can do that. She's brilliant.
Make them brilliant.
Yes, she is brilliant. Haha. So, Mr. Blaisdell, if you can take us through this.
That's you, Peter. Mr. Zaccardi.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cigar. Yeah, I do know a person named Peter Blaisdell, and that's sorry, just one of those mental things. Sorry.
I don't know how to flip through this.
You don't have to flip.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. Just talk to us and
All right.
tell us when you want it to change.
This is the view from Blaisdell Road, and this is the latest drawing and plan that I have, and the look that I want to achieve.
Want us to move on, or do you want to?
Oh, go on. Okay. This is the view from Main Street. That's the backyard view. And this is looking from Blaisdell toward Main Street on the shorter side of the frontage. This first floor and second floor.
Andrew, just to ask a quick question for clarity, not having been on the committee that long, is this been approved or meet the requirements for planning? So we're reviewing something that will have their approval or has their approval?
I don't know, Mr. Zaccardi. I don't know if you have to go to the planning
Yes.
board, do you? Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I
All
have
right.
met with them 3 times.
All right. So
Public
actually, we're good. We're independent. And if other boards, who else do you have to go see? Board of Health? No?
Nope.
Yes?
Well, they approved it as a 3-bedroom,
Okay.
and this is designed as a 3-bedroom.
Okay. So I think, Daniel, your good question. I think we're good to go.
Just a follow-up question then from Mr. Zaccardi. If I think looking at the plans, it's pretty obvious, but it might be helpful if you just talk about what you plan to use for building materials. I think I know what you're thinking of, but it would be good if you could just maybe mention it to the commission what you're planning to use.
Well, all wood materials. either,
You need to
In-
pass. Could you go to the first elevation,
oh,
please?
sorry. On the plan, it lists clapboard, but I'd be open to wood shingles as well. A 1x8 corner boards, or I'd be open to weaving the shingles. And all wood Marvin Ultimate windows and Therma-Tru wood doors. They didn't list them as wood, but they are Therma-Tru offers original wood doors to match the grid on the windows. Probably a 2/2.
And I assume that because that's all you submitted, we're just reviewing the house tonight. You would come back later for landscape.
Sure. It would be a simple landscape. A brick walkway to the front door and then connecting to the driveway, which would probably be asphalt. And then maybe a row of privet hedge heading down toward Main Street to give a little bit of privacy. Or an evergreen. Being a small yard, a small narrow yard, a long but narrow yard, it would give a little bit of privacy. And I thought it may add to the property rather than some sort of fence.
Tracy, could you go back to the site plan? I think it's number 1. Well, yes and no. We do have a site plan.
The
I
site plan
wonder,
for some reason came in separately on a separate sheet.
yeah, I think we
Yes,
can,
you're right. Give me one moment and I'll pull that up.
Well, while you're pulling that up, Tracy, good evening, everybody. A couple of questions. I'm looking at page A2.1, and which is the view from Main Street. And it looks to me that maybe this dormer seems way super duper large. Something's happening there with the dormer. It doesn't seem to be, something's funky going on here from this view. There looks like there should be a smaller dormer in front of the bigger dormer, but it's not showing up. And it looks like the bigger dormer is oversized. The center dormer is oversized.
Catherine, I'm sorry. Maybe we should just go over the site plan
Oh, yeah.
here.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I apologize.
Nope,
It's my
that's
fault.
good. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So, Mr. Zaccardi, you want to talk to us about the positioning of this house?
Well, we push it to the deepest part of the lot,
Heading down.
heading down Blaisdell. And it is in keeping or making better the distance from the rear and from the front to number 3 Blaisdell, which was the planning board's requirement that it's equal or better. So this is where we could position the house. After going over with Emily at planning and zoning. She thought this was the most logical place for the house.
So this is all approved. This plan has all been approved by planning and zoning, and they've given it the stamp of approval.
It meets their guidelines, yes. And I went there 3 times to make triple sure.
And the Board of Health has approved this.
Yes.
Good.
3-bedroom house. We did the perk test today, actually, and it passed with flying colors. and
Great.
would fit in where it's outlined for the field.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
We did the perk test today,
Yes.
and it passed with flying colors, meaning it would definitely fit within the parameters suggested by the engineer, where the field would be for a 3-bedroom home.
Okay. Thank you.
So all these setbacks meet, and it would definitely fit right there. It could actually be larger. The septic system, should the perks have resulted in higher minutes, that is.
Okay. Catherine, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thanks. So back to page A2.1. It looks to me like maybe the dormer on the front of the house is not represented correctly here. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, they did. It's not accented well enough. No, it's A2.
A2.1.
A2.1. It is outlined. There's a line going through, and that's the height of the smaller dormer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They all arrive at the front of the house.
Okay. I see.
He's
Gotcha.
got dotted lines between that and the.
I see. I see. So I see the roof now. They're very. It was camouflaged in there. Thank you.
Peter, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Go back to A2, the front of the house, as it's seen from the Blaisdell. You have a lot of vertical and horizontal lines, which gives it a nice unity feeling. I think it's a very attractive plan. And then my eye goes directly to your garage doors because they're diagonal boards. Is there a reason you want to put attention over there rather than your pretty front door? Or was that just sort of a whimsical thing to do? Or why diagonal boards?
No, that was the engineer just using his own vision. What I want is an older traditional panel garage door, squares with 4 squares in each panel on the top panel, like the ones you've seen for years. Every garage had them, and you can still get them all wood today.
Is there a picture of that somewhere, or?
I can send it. It's actually it's across the street. Has the same exact doors.
Okay.
On it's 10007.
Okay, so we should write this up as not having diagonal boards.
No.
Okay, good.
I have a question about the metal roof. You had indicated earlier, a couple of minutes ago, that all the, it was going to be asphalt and wood. You said nothing about metal. So why the metal roof? What's the purpose? And to my way of thinking, it doesn't fit into the district, but that's just my opinion.
Well, it's just it's a little different from the rest of the roofing. I should have brought that up. It's a standing seam metal roof, galvanized, which has been around for centuries. And you can see a lot of examples on Main Street going down. Sometimes the roof line's splayed, meaning they're curved from the side elevation down to the roof line. But that's a little harder to do these days. That would be just sheet metal overlaying each other. Now it's this standing seam, which is more waterproof, and you need straighter lines for that.
But it's not the whole roof. It's not the whole roof. It's only these accent pieces on the roof.
The accent. It's the front. The front porch. The porch looking at it from Main Street, and the garage, which is like a 3-foot by 20-foot roof.
What color would that be, Peter?
Could be galvanized or copper.
Galvanized meaning shiny, silvery looking?
Yeah, the weathered galvanized, which of course doesn't rust. It just
It loses its shine.
it loses its shine, similar to aluminum, but it's what was used for years.
When I've seen these in older houses, they're usually a like dark green or some less in your face color, less noticeable color. Is this color different colors?
The galvanized seems to be actually less colored. The new copper these days turns a dark brown.
Right.
It doesn't turn the green patina. For some reason, they changed the alloy in the copper.
Because it's poisonous, yeah.
You just can't get it.
Yeah, but they come in like painted, or I don't know if it's paint or it's put right into the metal when it's made, but I see
This
that
is natural.
Yeah, there's a fair range of colors that's possible.
The galvanized is the natural. It gets a weathered look, and it's just a silver that turns very dull. It's weatherproof, of course. Doesn't need maintenance.
But in any case, that's what you're proposing tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's certainly open for discussion.
Um,
Seems to be very popular today. I don't like the colors versions, but I do like the natural galvanized or the copper.
Mr. Zaccardi, I have a quick question. How high is this building completely? If you-
32 feet. He didn't combine all the numbers, but I added it up this afternoon, just going over it again because it's been a while. It's 32 feet from the ground. The ground is perfectly flat.
32.
Yes. To the
So
peak.
I'm wondering, based on the district, and there's a lot of cottages and 1.5-story homes in this area, a lot of capes, a lot of cottage style homes. And then of course, there's the house right across Blaisdell from this home that, is a 3-story home, and it's, quite large, and actually,
Well, it's 2.5.
sorry, 2.5 stands out.
It's actually a tad taller than this one.
Yeah, it definitely stands out in the neighborhood as being unique compared to the other more cottagey style ones. And I'm wondering if there's a way to lower the ridge line on this by, at least a foot or something like that. You got a very tall attic space, and I'm wondering if maybe it could come down a little bit. Maybe the garage space can stay up and the house can come down, or they both come down. I'm just trying to reduce the mass of the home on the lot, because it's a small and narrow lot, and to reduce the mass as much as possible if it can be done.
Well, the pitch, which makes the house, the dormers are actually at 14, probably more like a 15 pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And the house itself is a 12 pitch. And that is the style. And that would change completely the style.
Could you bring down the ridge but make the tails longer, so that the overhang on the front would have a longer tail on it? The rafters would come down, and it would actually fill in that big gap between the windows and where the roof starts.
As it is now, the overhang is a good foot, which is much larger than traditional homes built today.
Mm-hmm. It looks standard when I'm looking at it. It looks sort of like standard. It doesn't seem.
The house next to it is actually much larger and more mammoth looking than this one.
Yeah.
And then it's a narrow house, so the height itself isn't really overwhelming. It's just in keeping with the style. And I tried to do some of that with the front of the house, the clipped roof.
No, I think this has come so far from the initial presentation. I think this, I love that stick work you have there. That looks much more in keeping with the original house you were modeling it after. Some of those arched windows. It all looks much more detailed than what we've seen. You've come a long, long way. I'm just given the, according to the guidelines, and I'm trying to stick within the guidelines of the existing homes in that area. They're all very cottagey and low, and all the homes on Blaisdell are small-ish comparatively. There's a couple of new ones that are quite large, but I'm just trying to keep the mass down in comparison with what is the predominant home style in the area. And I didn't know if it, even coming down a foot, but bringing the tails down on the gutter line would achieve that same pitch, but a little lower.
It would compromise the ceilings on the inside. It's actually, there are many homes on Main Street, which is what I thought we were coming from with historical.
That is
in keeping with Main Street, because you're looking at the house from Main Street.
You're correct. It is.
So I wasn't trying to copy a cottage on Blaisdell, so to speak.
No, there's also, you're exactly right. It is the perspective from Main Street, and that is the historic area. And those homes are mostly cottages and
most of the homes on Main Street, well, in this kind of style, one was recently built. They did a beautiful job, I thought, closer to the school, and trying to be in keeping with something like that, where the roof line dropped into the window areas rather than on top like a typical colonial would.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Or
That
you
definitely
lose a little square footage on the inside, but I thought it would add to it.
Truly, it does. I'd like to hear what the other members think about the height of it being 32 feet.
Catherine, I agree with you. I thought the house looked bulky vis-a-vis the rest of the neighborhood or the rest of the southern part of Main Street. They're mostly capes, and they're not 32 feet high or even close. And the house across the street does stand out in a less, I think, in a less than flattering way as you're coming down Main Street. Now, maybe the perspective from Blaisdell, that's different, but we're looking at the perspective from Main Street, or I'm looking at the perspective from Main Street. And I just think the house looks bulky for its site is close to Main Street.
That's the view from Blaisdell.
Right, that's the view from Blaisdell from Main Street. I don't feel it looks bulky. It looks narrow.
Can we switch the?
And trying to get more in keeping with the look I was trying to achieve, which was 1870-ish.
Show the view from Blaisdell.
I can't. They control the.
Can we look at the view from Main Street, please?
I didn't feel that looked bulky. Just my perspective.
I'm going to chime in and say, I think I can see how the plot and this design has come to where it is right now, and there is a good amount of height, but it is a very tight lot, and I think I think some of my fellow commissioners are perceiving as bulkiness. I think is acceptable. So I might not have chosen to, I would prefer it to be lower, a little less bulky, but I think it's reasonably appropriate.
Any comments, Daniel?
Yeah, I probably echo what Justin thinks, which is, especially it's thin, right? And it's a narrow lot, and probably could, if you could widen it, you could probably drop it, but I think it's, the lot is what it is. And the house across the street is tall. I looked at what that house used to be. It used to be a small cape, but it's no longer that. And so these kind of mimic off of each other. I get the perspective of it. Certainly would be a benefit, but I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Zaccardi, with if you drop that roof and ridge line, it's going to make that second floor tougher for you. So I think the biggest comment I have is, I think it would, when we talk about this when we get to the motion, is I think it would just be helpful for cut sheets to be added. If that's something Andrea can just verify that they're appropriate and they match Mr. Zaccardi's description, or we sign off on. I'm not sure what the right process is for that, but I think that would be the biggest thing that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think we'd follow up with colors, light fixtures, those types of things.
Okay.
Yes.
I have one more question to Mr. Zaccardi. In the front view, A2, there's a little window above the second story window, and it looks like it's I'm not sure what kind of window that is. It looks like it's what's happening with that window? It's is that the arches and the whole arched part, is that a window, or is it a little square window with some?
It's a passive panel of the window. The architect tried to provide it's actually a double hung window with a fixed window pane above it. A computer doesn't do it justice. He tried to mimic the house that I'm actually was trying to get the look I wanted to achieve. They had something similar. I think I would probably canvas some reclaimed windows, maybe at a yard, and try to find that one, rather than have Marvin make me something. But the
4 panes, is that what we're looking at? Is it a 4-pane window with a station?
Yes, it's a 2/2 in keeping with the rest of the windows, but it looks very squat because you have that extra pane on top.
Oh, gotcha.
I would probably get a window that's totally fixed, just reclaimed from an older home.
Mm-hmm.
I know I can find them. There are many places in New Hampshire that they have yards that have these windows all over the place.
Okay, I see.
And the CAD really doesn't do it justice too.
Yeah.
It darkens where the outside of the window and things like that, and the top looks very faint.
I see. Okay, thank you. That was my last question. And I guess I would like to reiterate the choice on the metal roof to be maybe a dark gray or something really that blends away. That's my suggestion on that. I still think it's too tall, so I'm going to stick with that one.
Thank you.
I haven't heard an answer to Catherine's question. What happens on the inside if you drop the roof down a foot? Are the ceilings not tall enough? Or what does that do to you?
As it is, you lose a lot of inside square footage because the roof line comes down.
In the second floor area, right?
I'm sorry.
In the second floor area.
Yes, the second.
Yeah, there's a first floor at 9-foot ceilings for the living space. You look at the plan, it's mostly an open plan. Has a second floor at just over 8-foot clear. Mm-hmm. So if it drops a foot, you're either changing the pitch of the roof, which I think would impact Main Street elevation, or you're probably pinching those bedroom ceiling heights, because I think most people prefer taller living spaces, especially in open plans.
Exactly.
Have the existing buildings been demoed or no?
No,
They've
no, we're going through the process right now.
filed.
National Grid is in their winter period, so they don't want to go anywhere near the street until mid-April.
They're on their calendar.
But I'm trying to work my way through it. All the power lines have been cut, and so the gas has been terminated, but not at the street, which is what's required.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I asked is I know in a previous meeting, we talked about trying to salvage a beam in the one structure and try to incorporate it into a mantle or something. And in this, I think if we were to make a motion tonight, we'd want to incorporate that. I look at that Main Street elevation, it looks a little big, but I think that center dormer is not helping. Again, in the CAD, I think that'll look smaller. So I'm trying to ignore that a little bit. But I do understand some of the comments on the massing. But we don't have, you don't have a 10-foot ceiling on the first floor. You're not looking at 9 foot on the second floor. It's only a couple inches I think we could squeeze out of this, if anything. And in the end, I don't think you'd notice it. I think the Blaisdell elevation is big. But again, my concern would be is mainly on the Main Street elevation. And I think this elevation is set back. I was trying to scale it. You're over 200 feet, probably closer to 250 feet back from Main Street. And because of the shape of the lot, it's gonna be pushed back there pretty far. So
it is about 250.
Yeah.
The lot's 360 plus.
So I don't see anyone in the neighborhood or abutters on. I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion. I do think we'd ask you to submit colors and light fixtures, things like that. If so, and that could be done through Andrea, I believe.
Yeah.
And we would need another meeting on that, would we?
Nope. Yep, that's fine.
So
all of the Marvin windows are identified as the Marvin Ultimate, which is the all wood window.
Okay.
Do we need story poles and a visit again? Catherine's worried about the height. We're a little questioning it.
It seems like we're boxed into this
a little bit, and then also story poles with the building still there. I don't think that you'd be able to really do them.
Well, this is quite a bit bigger than what's there, I think. Go around it. I don't know.
I think I'm comfortable voting on this tonight.
all right. So someone want to make a motion?
Make an attempt. Let's see. Make a motion to I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 17 Blaisdell?
No, 3.
3.
Sorry, 3 Blaisdell Road, located in Hingham. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. What's the district?
Liberty Plain.
Liberty Plain District, to construct a new single-family home. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I've got to go back and forth. I don't have the plans or the dates.
You can do it, Daniel. You can do it.
Thanks. With the plans dated January 27th, 2022.
Yay!
Pending approval by Andrea Young for light fixtures, cladding materials, colors, roof materials, garage doors, and main building doors. And to include, are we including the salvaging of an original wood beam to be repurposed in the house?
Yes. Where is it coming from?
From the original house to be repurposed in the new single family home.
Yeah, I thought it was the front structure. We went down into the basement, I believe, in the
Yep.
front structure, and Catherine had noticed a beam.
Hand hewn beam. There we go. That's what it was.
All right. Is there a
And
second?
can we give any guidance, and perhaps this is not necessarily in the motion, but the cut sheets that would give to Andrea, maybe color options on the roof of galvanized or gray. And
Yes.
we noted we'd like cut sheets for the garage doors, the doors, light fixtures. And I can't think, was there anything particularly else? But I'll second.
Now, wait a minute. Where do we see that beam going? The salvaged beam.
Make it into a lamp.
Oh, stop.
Hopefully it's not rotten. But it would be great if it was incorporated somewhere visually in the home.
I thought
Yeah,
I
I
heard
don't know.
Viable.
on the mantle.
Yeah.
On the
yeah, I don't know if
mantle?
we would- yeah.
That works.
I've done it before too, so certainly into that.
That works.
All right. So Daniel made the motion. Justin seconded it. Carol, how do you vote?
Aye.
Daniel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a most happy St. Patrick's Day.
We'll see you back for
Thank you.
landscape at some point.
Okay,
All right. Second on the agenda. 5 Pleasant Street. Margaret.
Hi,
Rando,
George.
2013.
Hello, Andrea.
Trust.
We have George Berg. Are you, can you share your screen?
Yes, I can. I have
Good.
everything up, so I think if that makes it simple.
Yes.
Just give me 1 second here. Everyone should be now looking at the application for a certificate. Can everybody see that?
Yes,
All right, and when you say go, I will go.
go.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for getting us on the agenda and taking a look at this. We've been before this board for this project in an advisory role. With COVID, I've lost complete track, but probably within the last year. We do have a certificate already that has gone through that non-applicability for replacing the roof, replacing the clapboard siding, and repairing the windows in place. What we're here before you tonight is to add make an adjustment and replace the railings on the existing wraparound front porch. Some modifications to a location of a window that is compatible with the advice we got the last time we were before this board, and then a few other miscellaneous things. I have a copy of this application, and with the application, there was some exhibits that I attached. I'll go quickly through the site plan and then just a general look at the exterior elevations. Some of you may have seen this under construction. Interior construction was extensive. There was the original house that was built in the 1860s. There was a subsequent addition here, and then 2 secondary additions all the way in the back. As you can imagine, not the greatest care was placed when they were building these additions. It's kind of an eclectic mix of everything from balloon framing to post and beam framing, and then in the back, some general platform framing. But we are not proposing, and we didn't propose to change the footprint in any way. The existing house stays just the way that it is. The massing stays just the way that it is. And the porches that are in question, this wraparound porch is essentially, we're proposing to keep it. What we would like to do is provide appropriate column wraps, and the existing cross railing that's there doesn't meet the code. Most of the porch is above 36 inches above grade, so it's very dangerous. During the construction, the greenery has been removed to facilitate construction. We're in the process right now of going through with our landscaper on the softscape. We may need to come back, or I may ask if the committee considers tonight that we review, the couple of small brick walkways with Andrea that we're going to propose, but that's not on the agenda for tonight. This is just another review. A review here. You can see that at one point somebody replaced everything here with just, I don't believe these are even pressure treated. They're in significant disrepair. The railings themselves, this design doesn't meet the code. It's a fall hazard. So we're proposing to replace these. And then you can see here, there's a stair that's very difficult to see. There's an existing old rickety wooden stair that somebody built hand railings out of 2x4s. And then there's another view of this. We're proposing to replace that as well with obviously new construction and more appropriate railing styles as we see it. The other thing I'd say about the front is you can see when they added this on, they have this little awkward window that they placed sort of in a really odd spot. When we reviewed this with the board previously, and I know there's some new members, you can see on the side here, and as a matter of fact, there was an old jealousy window. Literally, that was all that was there, not very energy efficient and a little bit leaky to say the least. The window on the front, which really is not visually, it just doesn't look natural, happens to match this window here. So we proposed, and with the committee suggestion, to relocate that window, fill that in with clapboards, make an adjustment here on the sideboards and the gable boards. I do want to point out that if you extend this gable board down and run it horizontally across, they match up. So it would normally be, if this was just a gable end and they set that back, which they probably should have done when they built it, that's where the sort of the natural end to that gable rake would be, if you will, on that side. But what we decided to do, in the committee seemed to support it, was to relocate that window, fill it in, and replace this jealousy window with that window. So we basically rehabbed it and relocated it. And now, these two windows would match. They're two matching windows. Inside the house, that's a knee wall. So it's a cathedral ceiling, or, half cathedral. And then there's about a 5-foot knee wall on the edge. So those windows are down lower within the wall structure. So we sort of solved two problems with that: getting rid of the jealousy window, which was in the bathroom, believe it or not, a little chilly, and then replacing it so that at least these windows match. Moving down, just another view of the stairwell. So this is on the side coming off of the porch. What we're proposing is that this currently dumps literally into the right-of-way. Obviously, it's not great construction. It's in serious disrepair. We're proposing, we reviewed this the last time, to actually create a platform and take the stair down onto the greenery, onto the grass, so that it's a little bit safer when people are coming out. They're not coming out literally into the right-of-way where, God forbid, there's an emergency vehicle or just general traffic. I have a couple of precedents below. We would like to use this type of construction for the railings, the newel posts and the caps. We're proposing, a vertical board batten to enclose underneath the porch so that you can't see under that. We would like the committee to consider, because of its proximity to the grade, allowing us to use a composite material there that would be painted white to match the rest of the trim. We are prepared to build that out of wood, but we think from a practical standpoint, and if you agree from an aesthetic standpoint, we would like to simply use composite material on the lower half. Everything from the existing deck of the porch up would be natural wood products. Moving further on through, this is kind of just a precedent within the neighborhood of the type of look that we're looking to get. Out of that, probably a slightly smaller scale on the newel posts, much like what we show here. And this is just a precedent. We have two doors that are visible from the public way. They have, if I can just go back, I don't know if I have a shot of it. They have literally an old plywood ranch wood door there that's all delaminated. And then, as you can see here, this is a more, it's a little difficult to see, more traditional. We'd like to replace these two with a wood door, a little bit more of a classic look. Before I move on to the other stuff, does anybody have any specific questions about what I've gone over so far?
I do. You say you're going to wrap the posts that are already there, or do you mean replace them?
They actually, I'm sorry, they need to be replaced. They're not really structurally sound.
And what dimensions and shape will that have?
I'm going to propose that they're going to be 6x6 box beams with a natural cap at the bottom and a toe cap.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I misspoke. You can see some of them are 6x6, some of them are 4x4. It's just been repair as you go. I'm pretty sure they didn't stop by this committee when they did that stuff. Is there any other questions? I'm going to go quickly through the site
Yes, I
plan.
have a few.
Certainly.
If you don't mind.
I don't.
So just for clarification, you're going to reuse the existing window and relocate it. You're not going to use a matching, you're not going to create a matching new window.
No, we intend to reuse the existing window and repair it.
And then just also for clarification, on the front, the rake board on the right-hand side, which is would be obstructed by the window, is that going to come all the way down to meet the same dimensions on the left? So they'll be equal.
Honestly, honestly, we're up for what the committee recommends. I have a 2D elevation of this, and you can see how it works. It's going to look a little funky. I am inclined to extend the rake board down and then bring these clapboards over. So that it just looks, the appearance is there. This is what's there in the elevation is drawn this way because this board here where it's drawn aligns with the edge of the porch. So they were giving a little bit of thought to what was going on there. I just don't know if it was the right thought.
So maybe bring down the rake to match the left side.
Correct.
And then the corner board would end at the rake and you'd fill in with clapboards above that.
That's correct. We could extend the clapboards over until it hits the rake.
I think that would be a big improvement on honoring the original form of the home.
Yep.
And then onto the left stairwell.
Yes.
I know we talked last time about having the stairwell return towards the rear of the property instead of an additional stairwell heading to the front. I think it'd be more practical and more visually appropriate for one main stair for the front of the door and then the side door. Perhaps by moving the entrance to the stair more forward on the porch, you could get a rear facing or a rear exiting stair.
We could do that, and you are correct. Right, these bushes are now gone, but what's right essentially at the edge of the porch, or just a little bit further, is about a 5-foot existing retaining wall. Right, so if we left the stair where it was, there's not enough room for the run to get down to grade. Right, by turning it, one thing we thought was that the parking is in the rear of the lot. And there'll be obviously a back door to both of these units. This is actually going to be a singular door to the rear unit. But our thought was that if anybody was coming from Pleasant Street and the stair faced forward, that might be more convenient. We can certainly, the secondary thought to that was also too, you'll notice that these posts here are, not quite evenly spaced. So our idea was that if we left the platform, came out and then turned, as opposed to shifting the stair, that might be a little less work, but we're open to either way, quite frankly.
So this is a 2-family.
It's actually a 3-family.
Okay.
It's two duplexes and a flat on the lower level.
I see. So it does make more sense to have the stair running to the front. Another comment is I see 2 really nice old pieces of granite on that stair. And is there a way to repurpose those?
Yes, absolutely.
In the stair itself?
We could certainly do that. We would just want to make sure that it's honed appropriately. Again, back in the day, these were probably there for a while, but if we can repurpose them, we certainly will. Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The house is 1890. I was just curious, that's a chip? Well, it's not really a Chippendale railing, but it's mimicking a Chippendale railing. Does anybody know if that's originally what was on this house? Was that style previously?
Dan, I can tell you that the property card shows this, but the photograph was from the 1950s.
I was going to pull that up. I didn't get a chance to. You have the property card?
I do not have it here with the photograph on it. Actually, wait a second. Maybe I do. I typically have. So I'm not sure when this photograph was taken. It was obviously in the past. But again, as far as what was there originally, I can't speak to that. It's quite possible that the wraparound porch was actually added.
Yeah, just ask the other commission members. Chippendale railings style was popular, 18th, 19th century. So this would have been near the end of that 19th century. So,
Is there a way to do it to code, Daniel?
A Chippendale, yeah. You can build a modern
to
Chippendale railing to code.
I mean, I think that it defines this house from the other houses on the street. There's quite a few of these front forward-facing gabled homes. If you have a suggestion, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with the older Chippendale railings is the 4-inch diameter, for the balusters. But you can do them, you can buy them prefabricated. You can buy kits. You can buy the components and you can buy them out of composite. You can do them out of wood. There's a lot of options there. So it is possible to do.
And it's that exit style.
Yeah, that's what yeah, exactly. That's what the Chippendales, it was a cabinet maker out of England that popularized it from China originally. So a lot of coastal communities had it because as people back in the 17th, 18th, 19th century would travel the world, they would see it in other places. The merchants would bring that style home and put something like that on their house. Same reason why you see pineapples, right? Similar process. So I'm just curious if that was put there because it was in such bad shape and a big X was thrown on there because that was easy for the railing, or if there was actually purpose or intent behind it at one point.
I guess we don't have a Form B on this, Andrea? Is it a Form B?
Yeah, I can get one. Just a minute.
I mean, I've just called up a bunch of images for Chippendale railing styles. And Dan, I'd certainly be interested in getting your feedback on code compliance. I'm not seeing anything with we haven't ever used anything with a baluster or any kind of a round baluster. It's more of a diagonal pattern.
Yeah, usually they're made from square stock. My previous house in a previous town that I lived at, they were original to my house. I replaced a couple of them. And when I replaced them, learned the process to make them code compliant.
I mean, we'd have to look into it. I mean, it hasn't been their intent. I don't think these kind of railings are original to the house. We couldn't find any photographs of it when it was originally built. So the idea was from the ownership of the house is to try to put just more of a traditional rail as opposed to, I mean, it's all going to be reconstructed, right? So It's not like we're going to salvage anything that's there.
Yeah, and a lot of times when they did these, there was like a center panel that was the Chippendale, and then there was vertical ones on that would flank it.
Yep. Yeah, like some of the images. I'm sorry.
I'd like to add that the rest of the house doesn't say Chippendale to me, but it's it's a big, solid, basic, almost looks like a farmhouse.
Yeah, it doesn't
a
really
lot going
seem,
on, you know, all the additions over time and so forth. I think I would avoid the Chippendale just because I would put that on a more stately home. But
yeah, I'm not going to deny that it's pretty basic looking and frankly not that sexy, right? And you put a railing on it. I'm not sure that that would stand out to the point where it would look out of place.
yeah.
All right, well, let me just continue on quickly. This is a copy of the site plan. What I didn't mention and what wasn't shown in there is that there is another stone retaining wall here that's got about a 36-inch drop. Andrea's traversed it, so she can attest to the fact that there's a little bit of a drop from the front yard to the back. I can zoom in on this a little bit where it's going to really matter. What we're proposing to do is putting what's on the front of the house that you can't see is, oh, that's property card stuff. What we're also moving around the back, right in the front of the house, this is actually the railing. We're relocating the electric service around the corner as well as the gas service. So that, you know, granted there's going to be more landscaping here, but we just wanted to get the wires off of the front of the house and around to the corner. The pole, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but the pole is right off the edge of the, this, screen. You can see that the wires come sort of dangle across here. They have the Cobra heads and they go down to those meters. We petitioned to try to get the wires located underground, but that was proved to be too costly, but we are trying to pull them over to the side of the house so they don't cross in front of the elevation in any way. However, we also have the gas meters being located here. So we thought we would kill two birds with one stone. We put a 4-foot cedar fence, keep people from, you know, there's no stairs off that retaining wall and there wouldn't normally be traffic there. But it also screens the meters that are along that side of the house from Pleasant Street, which is obviously just to the north on this plan up here. I already mentioned previously that there's a retaining wall right in this location that's about a 5-foot drop. We obviously want to correct that. So we're proposing to put, again, a matching cedar. I have a couple of precedents that I would like to show you, and we're open and we can discuss with Andrea or approve at the top of that so that there'd be another, you know, again, visible from Pleasant Street, you know, sort of that cedar fence that we would propose to paint white like the rest of the trim. Everything else on the site is pretty straightforward. We are going to have a pad at the bottom of the stairs. These stairs are going to turn and return. If we can use the granite as the bottom step and granite as the pad, we will do that. We'll also use granite at the base of these stairs, and then we would like to just have a traditional brick walk that runs straight out. I know I would likely need to come back from a hardscape, but that's really what the visible hardscape is going to be. We didn't see a need to cross all across the front lawn with a brick walkway, so we are, you know, we're proposing to come straight out like the concrete walk does now and meet the sidewalk. Some very rudimentary elevations, but elevations nonetheless. Again, in this view from Pleasant Street, you can see where that cedar fence will go. As I mentioned, you know, I am inclined to take this rake and run it straight down and then have it meet up with what would be the false corner board. You know, if you run straight across horizontally here, you can see that that's where the natural gable would really be, you know, right, almost right at that corner. So we would eliminate that little piece here and, you know, extend the clapboards over to the top of the rake board as it comes down and meets that. Again, looking at the more traditional railing with a vertical skirt board, rebuilding the stairs, reusing granite as we can. And this would be the view from Pleasant Street if you were looking straight on, obviously from across the street at the church. But again, we'd bring the platform out and return these stairs to the street because the back unit would obviously have back stairs as well that are tucked around the building. If we look at the side elevation, again, there's a little bit of a grade change from the front yard down to the side yard, which is in the right of way is in the foreground. you can see roughly where the grade is. And so you can see the drop off here. I actually think on the site plan, I've drawn I sketched over the fence in the wrong place, but we would like to just put a cedar fence there. We're obviously going to plant something there as well, but we need something a little bit more rigid to keep people from just taking the express to the lower level. And you can see we just took this window, restore it, and replace it where the jealousy window exists. It actually works out with the plan. And we've developed this along the knee wall in the front unit. The second floor knee wall, as I mentioned, is about 4.5 to 5 feet above the finished floor level. And again, just wrapping around the porch. And that is essentially it. I just want to, we already looked at the meters. This is the old stair that we've removed. So if you were to look this in the elevations, that at one point existed here. It was in such disrepair, even the contractors didn't want to use it. We've decided to remove it and move it around the back so it's not visible from the street at all. So that's going to be completely gone. This is a precedent for the fence that we'd like to consider. Again, painted white cedar. We're open to anything. I would ask if this committee is inclined to approve the fact that we want to put cedar fence at those two locations. We can certainly review everything with Andrea before anything gets built, if that's your inclination. That's part of the property card. And I guess that's it for what I have to say, but I'm sure there may be questions or comments, and we welcome them all.
I'd like to say that I do have the Form B, but it's not very extensive. So I'm happy to share that. If I can share my screen.
I can stop my share if you like. And
yes, thank you.
You're free to go.
Oh boy, yippee. All right, there it is. Okay, so if you can see here, let me see. This was done.
Oh, this says 1904. Okay.
This was done in 1990, and it says 12,502 square feet is the acreage. Additions, built in 1904, single residence, traditional style, clapboards. Additions, 2-story wing to the rear, which is to the south, and 2-story wing to the west. At that time, it was in very good condition. Let's see. Up to 1744 Pleasant Street was the southern boundary of the old training field established in 1640. The residence is located on the south side of this 18th century street and faces the south elevation of the Congregational Church. 1.5 blocks north is Hingham Center. So that's all we know about this. And there's not much information. But anyway, you can see what it looked like back in 1990 when the photograph was taken.
It went downhill pretty fast.
It did.
Andrea, seems you're on the spot. Can we just ask for clarification? Are we, given that the application doesn't have in it the additional railings and the fences and some of the other stuff that was reviewed tonight, or is it in our purview to review that tonight, or does it need to be?
No, we'll have to, the fences will have to be at a different time. Okay. I think we can give an opinion on them, but I think Mr. Berg will have to come back for the fences.
No problem.
Thank you.
So I think this is a huge improvement from what's here. It's great to see this house be loved up and made beautiful again. And I think all the changes that you were proposing seem appropriate. The sketch, the sketch that you showed us, the front elevation, it was hard to tell if those were 6-inch posts or they looked like 4s to me, but that could just be a
It's a graphic, I'm sure. Our intent would be, and you could read it into the record, obviously, to use 6-inch posts at a minimum.
But I think that it is a vast improvement. And I think the fences that you have proposed look appropriate in my view.
Yeah, and I would agree with Catherine's comments, and I haven't heard any of the discussion tonight that would, it all sounded like appropriate thinking and what we would look forward to in plans.
Anyone else? Carol, Marianne?
Love it.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'm going to make up for my last one. I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 5 Pleasant Street located in the Hingham Center Local Historic District for replacement of existing wraparound porch railing and skirt board with new materials to meet building code, matching existing layout using 6x6 posts, vertical balusters constructed with composite material painted white, repair or including reuse or repurposing of the existing granite steps, replacement of existing exterior door with a new wood doors, 4-pane glass panels, and relocation of existing window as shown on the application dated 16 February 2022.
Seconded.
Right.
Nailed it.
How do you vote?
Well done. Yeah.
That was impressive.
George, you can just put, when you come back with the hardscape, you can also put the fences on that.
Sure.
Same
Definitely.
application. It'll be quick.
Yep.
And all right. And George, just so that you know, is working on the new Foster School.
Oh,
Oh, yep. My firm is, I'm part of it, but I can't say I'm doing that all by myself, but that's a very exciting project. Yes.
terrific.
As a foster parent, very excited.
If I was a foster parent, I would be excited about any kind of movement on the property. So it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful school. So it's a little sidebar.
All right. Thanks, George.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great night,
Oh,
everybody.
Tracy, we got to finish voting.
We haven't
Oh, we have
voted.
to vote. Hello.
Justin, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Daniel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Carol, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
It's an aye for me.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night, and
Thank
we'll see
you.
you soon.
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you.
Right. Next up, 103, 105 North Street.
Mr. Racino.
Yes, I'm here. I'm starting my, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, good evening. May I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Is Mr. Barry here?
I just sent him a text message. He may be on or may not be on. I
Yeah,
can
he
check
might.
with him.
Okay, but we've got you, so.
You do have me. So I'm ready to go when you are.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just as a refresher, we were in front of the commission a while back, and we did receive a certificate of appropriateness on this building, which is 103 to 105 North Street, the Elijah Levitt House, I believe, as it's called. It actually goes by some other names based on what I've read about it. It has a long evolved history that has been the structure has been added on through time. Again, I won't dwell on the certificate of appropriateness that we have received. We're back here again to discuss. We will be proceeding forward. Work will be proceeding forward with that, but we would like to discuss tonight some window placement on the sides of the building, discussing some very gentle moves, or at least we think they're gentle. We're not doing anything at all in terms of movement on the North Street side of the structure. So I wrote a little narrative here that I can just explain and kind of explain what the reasoning is and what's happening. We will proceed with the certificate of appropriateness as previously approved. No changes to North Street facade. Interior is going to be reconfigured from 9 dwelling units to 8 units. But the reconfiguration is due in part to a reduction in parking spaces. The reason for the reduction in parking spaces, there's a development happening in back of this building that there's been some changes with retaining walls that were necessary to facilitate the construction of the rear building. And so that has all been approved and is being built. But we do need to reduce parking, and this building is in need of, it's tired and it's in need of some help. And Mr. Barry knows that, he's aware of that. And it's wonderful that he's willing to restore this building really. And that's what he's trying to do. So we would just like to talk about these minor window adjustments, and we would like to propose what we'd like to do. And of course we want your feedback as well. Just one moment, let's see. Mr. Barry says I'm not sure if he's coming on or not. Anyway, just moving through this, you can see the building in its current state from these photographs. And the building has, the front of the building is quite nice with consistent 2/2 windows. And our proposal would be to completely restore the windows on the North Street facade. What we'd like to do, of course, with your permission and guidance, we'd actually like to propose replacing the sides of the sides of the structure, both sides. We'd like to look at a wood replacement window for a couple of reasons. There's as I look, I'll show you these elevations here. We can discuss the sides. So the existing east elevation, which is on the right side here, up top, and then the bottom is what we're proposing. And so existing on top, proposed on the lower part. The moves are very subtle. So you can see the building is a mix of 2/2s and some randomly placed 6/6, I believe. We'd like to be consistent with the 2/2s everywhere on the sides. And we would like to propose with some of the unit arrangements inside, just trying to clean up the alignment a little bit on the windows. So you can see our proposed adjustments to some windows here on the right side. The wing here that sticks out in the back is technically, I think, part of the rear. It is not visible from the side. I can show you in the satellite imagery that it's a concealed part. And so as we design the building, we will have some changes to the rear of the building for egress and stairs, but they're not at all visible from the public way. And then take a second here and talk about the west or the left side is it's bit more cluttered or evolved, I should say, through time. Perhaps cluttered isn't a good word. So it does showcase the 6/6 windows. It has a very horrible kind of wooden metal enclosed chimney stack that we would like to completely remove. And that would allow us to get shutter placement back because the shutters were removed. So we're planning on removing that horrible looking chimney. And then just some subtle changes with the window placement. And again, the proposed would be to switch over to replacing these to 2/2s. That, I believe, is what we're proposing to do. We were proposing a Marvin wood window here that we've used in the past that's been approved, and we would, we could discuss this some more. Let's see if there's anything else. Some of this stuff was left over from previous, but we did leave it in just for clarification. This is from the previous certificate that was approved. This is, there's limited, we're going to use a Boral fly product, which is a fly ash product. It's selectively, we're using it selectively as it's been approved previously. It does have a lot of historical precedence, as I'm sure you're aware of. And then I just also included, and I'm sure you've seen this, but this is the just the information about the house and its history, which we can get into if you'd like. But again, we're not proposing any changes at all to the North Street facade, other than trying to bring it back. I think that's it.
Questions from anyone?
I have one on the east elevation, right side. You've eliminated all doors on that side. What's with that?
We have. We'd like to route everything to the rear of the property. The reason for that is, again, this has evolved through time, but now the property has, I'll show you the satellite image, and you may be familiar with the site. It has parking at the rear of the building. So everyone will be, all the tenants will be parking in the rear and entering. And we felt it appropriate to kind of keep that collected toward the rear and not add additional elements to the side that, such as those kind of incorrect, there's an incorrect, I guess I'd call it a craftsman style door there. So that's our logic for it. It works with, it's for convenience purposes, really. And it's not necessary in the redesign. We're kind of bringing everyone into a central rear hallway. We don't have, I'm not intentionally being vague about the plans. We don't, it's conceptual at the moment. We're working on the designs of the floor plans, and we're in front of you tonight to try to understand what you would consider appropriate with the sides of the building. So it is our intention to clean this up so we'd have one main entrance in the rear. We would still be keeping the front entrances because they're there. They have the Italianate style doors that are there, quite nice. But that's the reasoning.
I was just thinking of safety, no exit at all on that whole side of the building.
Won't be required as part of the upgrade of the building. The means of egress will be met. The occupant load is proper, and we'll have egress at the front and rear of the building. So we'd have proper egressable windows and such. And the building, as part of its upgrades, will also have a sprinkler system put in it and a fire alarm.
And if I may keep going, the west side, you've got more divided light than you have in the front of the building. So many of the houses in Hingham, of course, were the back is the old part. And then when they had money and the family grew, they put the big, beautiful addition on the front, which we think of as the main door and the main part of the house, but often it's reversed. By leaving smaller lights, my first impression is that's the old part of the house, it has its own chimney and so forth. And then the 2/2 in the front looks like a later addition.
So
you're going to take them all off. You want to change them all out.
That's the proposal. And I've talked to John, Mr. Barry, about this. And that's kind of where we landed with this. But just earlier today, just kind of discussing things, and I understand where you're coming from. I guess we would like, there's some consistency, like even here, there's a mix in existing going to the right side, not exactly what we're just talking about. That's the other side, but there's a mix of things happening. We would like to, John would be amenable to one or the other, but we would like to kind of try to have some consistency. So we could go the other way too. We could explore some ideas, but the tricky part about this is it's a tough one, even for me as I look at this, because the right side isn't exactly like the left side. So I guess what I'm saying, long way of saying, we wouldn't be opposed to if you feel that the 6/6 would be more appropriate on the sides selectively, we could do that as well.
It sure looks older, this is 1836 is what you're thinking? Or were you given that?
Yes, it's evolved through, it's hard to say. We have dates from the 1600s all the way through. So there's some uncertainty, I think.
So 2/2, boy, that's a tough one. I'd err going backwards instead of earlier.
Is the access to the back of the home the apartment building, is it considered a right of way? I mean, a public way?
It is not a public way, and Bank Ave on the other side there is not a public way.
Bank Ave is not a public way?
It is not. I've asked Mr. Barry about this, and he's absolutely certain it is not a public way.
I guess I'm with Carol. I guess I would think that the 6/6 would be the older window, and then the 2/2, as technology evolved, it became more desirable and possible.
I don't know about 36 though. That seems awfully early to me. I think of the 2/2s is coming in pre-Civil War.
Oh, no, I didn't say 36. Early, I said the 6/6 was earlier than 2/2.
Right. And if the house is 1836, I don't know, they would have had 2/2, especially in New England.
But I mean, currently they exist and they've evolved. So I think we had a lot of this discussion the last time, and we talked about maintaining the 2/2s on the front, and then doing the 6/6 in the rear. Does anyone recall? Ben would remember.
I could look up the decision, but it would take me some time. I don't think there was absolute concrete clarity on the actual windows, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall the windows. I remember a lot of conversation on the Borel. I remember being on the site.
Could it, is this what I'm remembering is that the Italianate structure in the middle, we thought was probably a later add, and that would maybe have the 2/2s, that little bump out in the front, and then the rest was going to have 6/6. Is that jogging anybody's?
I do remember it had a very early wing. I can't remember which side, but somebody said one is like end of 1600s or something. Very early. No idea.
If in the history, there's some uncertainty about that, whether that 1600 structure actually remained or not.
Yeah.
So and so that's part lending to the confusion here. So as we look at the house, just for a second, it is. Just want to point out again that it is inconsistent. So from the sides, we do have this side. It does in this gable form here. If we can agree, it's probably maybe earlier as part of this. This came later. This does have 6/6s, but the opposite side has a 2/2s with one 6/6 in the attic, which seems newer. So it's a tricky one. We're torn, and that's why we're here. I think so. It's a kind of a two-part question. I guess we really would like to discuss the idea. We'd love to restore those front windows. At the same time, we would like to, quite frankly, be a bit more efficient and clean up the sides with something appropriate. And that's what we're trying to do.
Don't they? Even from the main street, you see down the side.
You do. Yes, you do.
It's a tough one. What do you think? What do you think, Daniel? What do you think, Tracy? Justin, what do you guys think on the windows? What would be appropriate?
When I work with universities and institutions, mostly not residential, but the time period that we usually use for 2/2 started to become popularized slightly before the Civil War, around 1830, 1840. So not having as much history on this building. I mean, I can get my head around 2/2 for the 1830s. If this is an 1830, 1840, certainly by 1860, it definitely would have been a 2/2. Mm-hmm. And so I think either one of them can be appropriate. I understand the desire to do all of the same, right? You don't want to split up and have, this half be 6 and this half 2. So
I actually think that I would like to see a little evolution in the windows and have a mix. That's my perspective, to sort of highlight the evolution of the house, and maybe the front body has the 2/2 and the rest of it is the 6/6. It just gives it that evolved over time thing.
When you say front body, Catherine, do you mean like the front elevation and that initial side, or
I would say the front elevation and the main mass on the sides.
Yeah, so like the first two
The
windows.
first two windows in.
Yeah.
And then maybe the rest looks, which does have a kind of older look somehow. Maybe that is the 6/6s. Then it has a kind of an evolved.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too, because you have the 202 and they're accenting with very Italianate features on that front elevation too.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I think I agree with that. I don't think that's a bad idea either. And I discussed the idea of this evolution with John. I suspected this might come up. It's come up for me in the past in other instances, and I understand it. And it does kind of describe what happened. I like the idea of keeping the gable form. It's strong as the 2/2s, and then switching the remainder of it to the 6/6s. So I'm in agreement.
Yeah, that really has a feel of history and evolution.
Yeah.
The question is, those windows, the 6/6s in the main body, that can they be are they historic, and can they be reused in the rear part of the house?
Are they Ripley?
Well, we wouldn't do, I mean.
You wouldn't want to do that.
No. Mr. Barry is amenable to completely restoring the front North Street facade, but we would, as part of this, like to use an appropriate wood window on the sides, and certainly the rear, which is completely concealed.
Which is what we agreed to before. We agreed to restoring the front elevation before, replacing the sides.
We did.
Tonight it's about, my understanding is you're reducing the number of units in this structure. So because of that, as the interior flushes out, we need to relocate some windows, correct?
This is correct, yes.
So.
And then there's a smattering of door removal.
That is correct as well. There's a smattering of door removal, but it's pretty minor.
Yeah, it doesn't seem controversial to my eye.
Yeah. What happened inside when you took that funny little chimney out of there? Was that attached to something?
Well, nothing has been removed or changed yet, so it's still existing. But it is I think it has been abandoned. It was an old ventilation, I believe, for I think either gas or oil, that is now more efficient and vented out the back in the rear now. Currently, it's a high efficiency gas.
And that's no loss.
No, certainly not.
So the windows on the right side of the house are also 2/2, and they are not to be restored.
This is correct as well. The windows on the right side they are mixed. There's a few 6/6 here too. So you have this one and that one. And again, this piece here is more of the wing that's pushed into the hidden alcove in the rear. But that's right.
And Tracy, you're certain, based on our you're remembering that we said restore the front and then everything else can be replaced? I just don't remember.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that's what we had approved. Andrea, do you remember?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. I'll have to get the certificate. But that is essentially what it was, because we were very concerned about the front because of the size of some of the windows, and it was just a very unique facade.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I just want to be sure that's what we said, because
yeah, we did. This is years ago, a couple of years, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Michael?
I don't think it's that long. Maybe
No.
we had COVID in here, so everything is kind of blurry.
Right.
I think that seems appropriate to the home. It honors the original form and separates it from the rest. I think that seems like an appropriate.
It seems like a wonderful solution.
Mm-hmm.
Can make a motion if you're ready for one, Chair.
Go for it, Daniel. 3 for 3.
Let's do it.
Yeah, whoa,
We're
Dan.
going to officially become our guy.
I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 103, 105 North Street located in the Lincoln Historic District Phase 3 for window restoration and reconfiguration per the plans dated 24 February 2022, which includes restoration of 16 windows on the south elevation, replacement of windows, 6/6 windows with 2/2 windows identified as windows 17 to 21 on the east elevation. All other windows will be replaced with 6/6. It includes relocation of 2 windows and removal of 2 windows and 1 door, replacement of 6/6 windows with 2/2 windows identified as windows 40 to 44 on the west elevation. All other windows to be 6/6 windows, and includes the relocation of 3 windows and removal of 1 window and removal of a wood chimney to allow for shutter placement. All new windows to be Marvin wood windows.
That was impressive.
That was
He definitely takes notes while
wow.
we're debating this.
Wow. I have one more question on the
Motion,
what
ma'am.
we're looking at right now. Proposed west elevation left. You're going to cover up a window. Are you going to take it out entirely, or will we see it boarded up? I hate that look.
The
He added.
in here, this one
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
No, the window will be, it'll be seamless. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The more Yankee ingenuity of actually just infilling it. But no, we don't plan to do that because the side of this house is actually naked and raw, so we have to reside.
Right. Good.
So that will be seamless.
Terrific.
Okay.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. Yep.
All right, Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Daniel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Carol, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
That's an aye for me. Congratulations, motion passes 5-0.
Excited to see it.
We are too. Thank you everyone for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Michael, for
You're
your
welcome. Bye-bye.
preparation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What gets me in trouble, Tracy, is when I take notes and then all of a sudden we go this way and then circle back.
All right, next on the agenda, 632 Main Street. And I see Ken is here.
Teriyaki.
Good evening, John Teriyaki Architectural Design. And I'm here with the homeowners, Marnie and Peter Owens, and also John D'Angelo, who will be the contractor for this proposed project. And the address is 632 Main Street. And if it's okay with you, I'll just share my screen and we'll go through the drawings.
Great.
So 632 Main Street, approximately 1818, original date. Here's the front view. And these are the existing photographs of the house, the clapboard front and then brick sides. And then it does telescope kind of as it goes back. And the front section and then the second section here are not being touched as part of this project. We are really focusing on the rear portion of the existing house. Here's a view from the existing driveway. Looking back to the rear of the house, you can see the existing sunroom. Here's a better view of it. And then beyond that, there's a 2-story wing that transitions from the sunroom to the historic portion of the house. And we were actually in front of you back in 2018 to replace the sunroom with a new family room addition and add an entrance portico along the driveway, and that project was approved. And then we took a little break, and then as the project was considered further by the owner and also with John D'Angelo's input, we decided to rebuild this 2-story mass in a slightly different footprint along with the rear family room. And then the side portico is also proposed again. Here's a site plan of the property. The house is interestingly very close to the northern property line. And one of the things we're proposing with this rear wing is essentially taking this and pushing it back a little bit from the property line to center it a little better with the front historic portion of the house. I'm just going to maybe go through the existing plans first, and then we can do a little comparison. Again, the existing front portion of the house is not being touched. The existing rear 2-story wing with the kitchen, family room, and mudroom area. And this part of the house is really a kind of a hodgepodge of different types of construction. There are different ceiling heights, some probably some older do-it-yourself work kind of mixed in there. The sunroom is a little curious with the unequal slope. So it's a little bit of a mess, and it's just become really difficult to work with, which is why we would like to reconstruct it. The existing 2-story, the 2nd-story bedroom over that wing right now. And again, the front is not being touched. The existing front and right side or southern elevation of the house. So this will be the piece that we will be replacing. And maybe this is a good point to go ahead and split the screen so that you can see the old and the new together. So I'm just going to go to the proposed floor plan. So above is the existing, and down here is the proposed. And this is the new wing we're proposing with the rear family room and the side entrance. And the total footprint square foot difference is a net increase of about 266 square feet, because this is still pretty sizable, interestingly. So we're not proposing a major square foot increase. And whereas this wing is coplanar with this north side of the house, we're setting that in about 4 foot 10 inches. And the 2nd-story comparison, existing and proposed. This is the new master suite. We are proposing a new stairway that's a little more spacious than the existing, and a rear sunroom, or the family of the sunroom turns into more of a family room, 4-season room as part of the proposed project. And just elevation comparisons, the existing rear roof line is set back approximately 8 inches from the front ridge, and we are basically replicating that with the new project as well. And I'm just going to go to the rear elevation to compare those. So existing rear elevation with the existing sunroom, and then the proposed. And then the existing north elevation over here and the proposed north elevation on this side. So this plane will be set in almost 5 feet from the existing. So it would be, or it should be, a little less visible from Main Street. And in terms of windows, we're proposing, since this is basically all new construction here, we're proposing Marvin Ultimate wood frame and wood exterior windows and glass doors, and a solid wood entrance door at this portico. So that's pretty much the summary, or general summary of the project. I'd be happy to dive into the details and answer any specific questions you may have.
I have a couple thoughts. The side entrance, you've got columns on either side.
Yes.
Are they round Tuscan? Are they square? It's hard to tell on here. What do you got?
Yes, they're square.
Okay.
They're square columns, 8 by 8, with a shed roof over. We have some additional details of that, some of the trim work, proposed trim work over there. Mm-hmm. And the proposed trim would be all painted wood trim with painted cedar clapboard siding.
And if I can keep going, the fireplace on the very back.
Yes, so
that will be seen by Crooked Meadow Lane, right? People going up Crooked Meadow?
It could be. I'm not quite sure of the geometry of where Crooked Meadow. Yes, right. It probably would be seen if there's a view corridor, because I know it's perpendicular to Main Street. So that fireplace is proposed to be a brick or masonry fireplace.
Right.
wood burning fireplace.
Would it be possible to have it interior instead of showing from the outside?
I believe so. I mean, I can run that by the Owens and see what they think. But if you think that that would make it a little less visible or less dominant,
just older looking,
or more appropriate,
like your other fireplaces, they're inside the house. I mean, if you can't, you can't. But it did look to me like you had plenty of room in that. It's a big space, family room or whatever it's going to be.
Right. I mean, I believe architecturally it could work, and then assuming Mr. and Mrs. Owens would be fine with that as well, I believe that could be worked out.
Okay, so I'm on a roll. I'll try one more. The 4 windows in that back family room. If you just look at the whole fenestration on the whole side of the house, they stick out a bit. It's the only place in the house with 4. What would that look like with 3?
I think it could still work. I mean, it's a fairly good size wall.
Mm-hmm.
And if you compare it to what's there existing, you know, obviously it's hard to compare anything to this.
Sliding doors, yeah, no, they're
right. I mean, I think 3 could work as well. I mean, but you know, I'm not sure if it's substantially different in terms of filling in this empty wall. You know, I wonder if 3 may leave too much empty wall space on either side. But
what if it was 2 pair, much like the windows?
Yeah, matching the others. Yeah.
That could actually, yeah, that could work better, because that would give us the transparency we're looking for, but maybe a little more appropriate if they're split up.
We're always looking for things that take your eye away from the beautiful old historic front of the house. And coming down Main Street, as I walk past this every day, I'm afraid 4 windows close together like that, stuck on the back of an old house. I think my eye is going to go back there instead of the beautiful front brick part of the house. 2 and 2, I think.
It certainly would from now on.
No, I think 2 and 2 could work well, and it does relate to some of the moves we're doing here as well. So,
and is there a demo of an old chimney?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is an existing chimney all the way back here.
Mm-hmm.
That would be demolished, but the front 2 chimneys, which are the prominent chimneys, are not being touched.
And I don't think the 3rd one is old, is it? Isn't that a 50s division?
That was my question. Before we get any further, my question is, how old is this 3rd section of scoped house that is being proposed to be pulled down? Because I wonder how. Yeah, I'd like to know the age of this section, the 3rd section.
It was there when we moved to town 48 years ago, but it has always looked. Gee, did you just say something about a little home work on the inside? It's always looked a little bit like somebody did it themselves, just from the inside. It was sort of chopped up and.
Right, we don't have an exact date, and we can try to do a little more research. As you know, it's hard to pin down these changes, but.
Does it have historic windows? Are they windows in that 3rd section?
They're bay windows.
It's a mixture. These are newer, but on the other side, some of these windows, maybe they were reused. Some of these are, I think, true divided lights.
Is it true to say that it's not truly antique? They're not obviously antique.
I think that would be a correct assessment. I think, again, some of the windows may have been reused or as mixed and matched, but correct. I mean, the real, or the antique part is really this front portion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even if it's 1700s, even if it's 1900, the rear 3rd section, I'm going to call it the 3rd section, would be, you know, historically important. I guess I'm curious. I don't see, if you're only gaining 255 square feet, I'm wondering why the 3rd section couldn't be worked with, other than, is there any other way to do the project without taking down and taking, I can see that the 4th section is really not appropriate, But the third section I have concerns about.
I can kind of answer that because we knew the Jannies who lived there years ago and spent a lot of time in that house. The third section is very sort of chopped up feeling inside. The front is so elegant. You walk in, there's a big room on one side and a big room on the other side. You get back into that third section and you're not quite sure. There's like a hall that jets around and
I mean, I can see why you got it and open it all up, but I guess I'm just concerned that we're taking down something that is, you know, of historic importance. And
could tell by the foundation, couldn't we? Go down the foundation.
If I may interject, it's John D'Angelo. Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. I've been in the basement of the entire structure, and this third section, to put it mildly, in the basement would be the phrase that would be used is cobbled.
Yeah.
It's none of the floor joists match. Some of them have paint. Some of them are 4x4s, 2x6s, conventional beamage. Nothing down there speaks to 1800 structure. It does not match the structure of the main house. Also, it's not a full basement. There's no basement underneath the family room, and there's no basement under the existing mudroom. You enter a stairway at the back hall where the laundry is now. Very rickety stair. You go downstairs. It's maybe 5 foot tall dugout. Very damp area, and the foundation is currently crumbling. So
wouldn't that be like the back kitchen?
From a historic standpoint, no, because where that back L meets the original house is exposed granite block, which means that it was dug out by hand, because when they do a foundation like that, they dig a square hole in the ground, stack the block from the inside against the rough soil on the outside. So typically the outside of an antique foundation is never pointed. It's built right up against the hill of the excavation. So that backside is completely unpointed, meaning that it was originally the end of the house. Mm-hmm. The inside of the main house, the front 2 L's, is pointed and painted like you would typically see a whitewashed antique basement painted. But that back L is literally crumbling because the stones are just falling out. When it was excavated to put this third L on, I'm guessing somewhere before early 1900s. It was built out of whatever was available. It wasn't done by carpenters or shipwrights to match the rest of it. And the the fourth L, the addition behind that, is absolutely 1965's construction with aluminum sliding doors. It has no value whatsoever. That chimney is not anywhere near original to the structure because it sits at the rear of that, between those two. So it's marked up to look like the original 2 with a top cap, but the actual chimney itself is not made of antique brick. So that room at the end, that sunroom at the end, was added much later. And that is kind of what gets back to, I can't even see underneath the family room to see what the foundation exists. So in order to try and manipulate that structure and make it safe to use, I'd have to demo out the floor, excavate down inside till the end of the foundation, and create an interior crawl space just to start working up. And my view with that is that I can go and take up some floorboards for the owners, but my view is that that's sitting on dirt. And there's really no way to quantify from an engineering standpoint that would take the loads that and the renovations that we're asking to put into it, as well as to access from a health, life, and safety point, the plumbing and the electrical to renovate that area efficiently, cost effectively, and safely. So without being able to physically study what the foundation is doing underneath those bay windows and in that section between the later sunroom and the less antique addition that's kind of stuck in the middle of the two of them, or what you guys are calling the third section, would take some fairly extensive excavation inside the structure to make sure that it would in fact be able to be renovated correctly to modern codes. I don't know if that helps or not, but there's no foundation, and what is exposed is the exterior of the original house foundation. I can tell you that. So that would have been pointed on both sides if this third bump was original to the house. I don't know if that helps or not, but that's.
Oh,
that's
I don't think that the third bump was original to the house, but I think it's based on your description. It sounds like almost a fieldstone cellar that was
It's
based.
a granite block cellar.
Oh, it,
So the main house in the original back L would have been done in the typical style of a stacked block granite type of foundation.
mhm.
And then they would have either started down lower with a fieldstone, a larger fieldstone, not what we would think of as a fieldstone wall, but more like a larger boulder. And then they would top the last 2 feet with granite block, or they would top the last foot with brick, depending on what aesthetics they were going for. So if you see on an antique the brick showing above grade, that doesn't mean it really is a brick foundation. So they would use several different methods, but the way
So
they
it was
would,
like it's a rubble foundation. So it was likely the kitchen house at some point, I would assume.
I
that
would
was then turned into a kitchen. I can't hear anybody.
I can hear
Yeah.
you. But yeah,
Did
I'm
we-
quiet.
Did we lose you, John?
sorry,
Oh, no,
so I would go along with that. I apologize. So I would go along with that theory if the third bump's crawl space basement was pointed on both sides. Then I would say yes, that is original or done within 50 years of the construction of the house, of the original main portion of the house. But it looks like it was hand excavated, and that's where the heating plant is. So that's where the burner for and the AC type of modernization that's happening to that section is transpiring down there. So as far as it being a kitchen area, it wasn't ever used as a cellar for foods or like a dry cellar or anything else. The only reason it was ever excavated was to put in a modern heating and electrical plant to that area. Otherwise, it would have been excavated the same as the original house and the second bump behind the original house. That third bump would have been excavated to the same depth, and they would have had a summer kitchen in the basement. So I don't see any degree of that because again, it's not even, I don't think I could have stood up there. It's under 5 foot tall. So I think that what is the basement is available was excavated after the house or after that third bump was built, or a portion of it was done so when that was going on. Again, I don't know if that helps or not, but the material that is being used to build it down there is more of what came out of a barn or a structure or the dump than it is anything that would be a summer beam or a matching or a post and beam type of situation. So it's hard to date the structure because it's just a mishmash of different areas of lumber put together.
Maybe another way to ask that question is, are there certain things about the design of that piece that the board thinks would be worth recreating as part of this project? If it's as difficult to work with as John described, given the existing condition, are there certain things about it that are historically appropriate that you should try to reintegrate as the proposed reconstruction is considered?
I go the other way. I actually like the thought that you're going to take the bay window over bay window look out of that. That just says, addition. And I like that the back door is going to be more prominent, sort of spread open a little bit easier to get in and out. And I love that the sliding glass doors will be gone.
Lots of improvements.
I think you've made a lot of improvements.
A lot of improvements.
Yeah.
It does look on the north side like there is a step back on the second story.
Yes.
And you're going to be going straight up on that north side now. So there will be more mass sort of on that side of the house.
Correct, but we are setting it back to more or less where that second story was. If you see the line of that existing second story, we are taking the current facade that's coplanar with this, and we're pushing it back to align where that second story was. So in theory, I think that's going to reduce the mass because we're not increasing the ridge or eave height or eave or ridge heights, but it is becoming more flat. It is becoming a flat 2-story wall versus a stepped wall. But you could also argue that part of the stepped wall was almost too coplanar, or it is the way it is right now. So that's kind of the dilemma there. You know, as we eliminate that, we are creating a little bit of a shadow line, a little bit of more of a separation with the first floor of that wing. On the other hand, we're making the first and second floors stacked as opposed to kind of a stepped massing, such as this one. I'll just go back to the proposed. You can see the kind of the back profile of where that 2-story wall would be.
Can you show them side by side?
Yes.
Please.
I'm not sure if this is too small. Let me see if I can zoom in both ones. And then the north facade.
Thank you.
And if you thought that it could be helpful to put a break between these two facades, again, trying to recreate some of this, I'm just not sure if it's going to look a little awkward almost if you try to artificially recreate this scenario here. I think pushing it back 5 feet will hopefully be sufficient to try to hide this addition as much as possible from Main Street.
I'm picturing it from what it actually looks like in person. A lot of shrubbery and trees, another little cape right here next to it, going downhill, and then you turn up into Crooked Meadow. That's why I asked, I think from Crooked Meadow, you might see the actual back part of this, but I don't know how much of this side you're gonna see. There's a lot of grown-up shrubbery in there. Not that we count that, but
right.
I like the way it looks now, the way you've got it.
Let me see if I can find the photographs. Excuse me. Yeah, you can kind of catch a glimpse of.
Yeah.
This is kind of a very, very steep angle of the existing third mass.
Close to the borderline.
Right.
There you go.
I think that does increase the mass. I mean, but I guess, yeah, I don't know where I stand on this. Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts?
I think it kind of view this as the addition that was done. Maybe, you know, this would have been the original addition if you had the money to do it originally.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I view this. It seems like the other one wanted to kind of do this, but maybe found ways to cut some costs and cut back a little bit. So I think it's, you know, it's what's proposed doesn't match, or, you know, we're kind of losing pieces, but it does feel appropriate overall. I do have one request. If we can, in the future, if we get plans, can we put existing and proposed elevations on the same sheet if possible? It
really helps, doesn't it?
It'd be just, we look at so many plans, so just, you know, that flipping back and forth is just helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we used to do that, and I'm not sure why we did it in this case, but we will do that going forward. Yeah.
Split screen.
Yeah, that helps a little bit.
Yeah, but
So I was, if I may, if you go into AE 1.1 and A 1.1, which is the existing first floor plan and the proposed first floor plan, it really speaks to that step when you look at the side setback requirements. Right now, that third bump back is touching the side setback line, the survey line. And then when you turn to A 1.1, the proposed first floor, you can see that the architect has stepped it back 4'10", and it really pulls it away from that fence line, and kind of gives some open air to that side of the structure between that, and it opens up a view corridor somewhat. And then that kind of speaks to the massing when you look at the existing on the AE 1.1 of the kitchen laundry room back hallway area, and that linear line, and then what he's done to step that in, and then it steps again on the family room bump. It's kind of receding on both the front and the back. And I know that was one of the conversations we had, was to make the structure recede as it goes towards the rear, so it would not look like a billboard from either side, either up or down Main Street, where it would just be one big flat wall plane. By pulling that back 5 feet, even though it's in one plane, if you look at the whole mass of that cube, the mass itself got much thinner, and even the family room situation. So it almost looks like the footprint is physically square foot less because it's such a big cube as opposed to a rectangle now. And it's just much more slender. And as that comes off the main house, that stepping back just continues, and it just recedes away from Main Street, as opposed to trying to wrap around the existing house or poke out on any side, or just continue to be more linear. So I agree on that side elevation looking tall, but it's setting back behind the main house proper so far that I think it's kind of a really good trade-off between, if it does have some height, it's less viewable from a couple of different corridors, and it's really opening up that side yard a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that kind of helps pick, going back and forth between those two plan sets really is helpful to kind of get a grasp. It physically looks like a smaller structure. And I think that will carry out to the final product, that it's going to look, a little bit more cohesive, put together. And like the architect was saying, a little less, not done correctly. It's going to do justice to the house, and kind of bring that whole structure together, where right now that whole back L is kind of hodgepodge. So those 2 pages flipping back and forth really helped me kind of wrap my head around the size and scale of the project.
And a huge improvement in the kitchen.
I would just say, if there are some fantastic old beams that they're just not chucked into the garbage, that they could be repurposed somewhere, because I suspect there's going to be some nice beams in there somewhere. I think this was probably an early addition to the home. Maybe it was a back shed, but I think there's going to be some good stuff in there. So just don't throw it all in the dumpster if there's something good. That's totally inappropriate.
I think Mr. D'Angelo, given his expertise, I think he would be very careful with that, I assume, during construction.
Thank you. I'm ready for a vote.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 632 Main Street, located in the Tower Wilder Extension Historic District, for a rear 2-story addition and 1-story rear addition, to replace an existing 2-story wing per the plans dated 22 January 2022. It includes Marvin Ultimate Series 6/6 windows, Simpson solid wood door, exterior door with glass lights, painted wood trim, painted cedar clapboard siding, 8x8 square column posts, replacement of an existing chimney. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Carol, how do you vote?
Aye, but I wanted to ask, do we need to put that the chimney should be inside the back of the house, or is that just going to be left as an idea?
I kind of think that the chimney grounds that back end of the house myself. It gives some heft to the end, but I'm open to anything the board says.
But I think I would leave it.
I said leave it to the homeowner and architect.
We will split up the group of 4 windows to 2 doubles, as was suggested.
So Carol?
Aye.
Catherine? How do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And that's an aye for me.
Do we
Thank
have
you
to
very
grant
much.
them a demolition certificate also? Andrea, Ron?
Hold on. It's part of the application. So,
Did we have a
Oh.
window schedule and what was it going to be?
Yes, the last sheet in the set had a list of the windows and sizes.
That's where I got the 6/6.
All right. We good, Andrea?
I think we're all set, yeah, because the application includes the demo.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
No, have a good night.
Good evening.
Last item, 17 West Street. We had a site visit on Saturday.
Maybe Miss Tracy, can you show us the revised plans?
Or one moment.
Don't,
And
I know Al was not here. I don't even see the owner here.
they are here. They said they would be. So we need them here in order to do this.
Did you say they were away this week, Andrea?
No, no, no. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're looking for
I
assessment.
don't see anybody.
Yeah, it's only Tracy, Andrea, and Justin.
It's only us
Carol.
chickens.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I spoke to her this afternoon and I explained that we had to have her here.
She must have fallen asleep.
Pardon, maybe.
Either that or it's because we're only like 20 or 30 minutes behind schedule.
That's pretty good.
That's
what I'm
pretty
saying.
good, right?
It is good.
That's
It is
practically
good.
on schedule.
That's on schedule.
That's on schedule.
But
It is good, and I thought this one was
unfortunately-
going to be pretty straightforward. I thought we might go 5 for 5, but
I know. Well, if they're not here, we can't do this. Darn.
Do you have their number, Andrea? Can you call
Oh
them?
yeah,
or-
give him a quick call.
I wish I had it here. I don't.
Let's see.
Isn't
I get it.
isn't it on their application?
No, because Al Kearney put his own phone number and address. But I did speak to her this afternoon and I said, in order for us to do this, you have to be present. We can't talk about it if you aren't. Ugh. Darn, darn, darn.
Well,
We go on to West
So-
you
Street.
can sing us a
We have
song.
to continue it, right?
Well, maybe what we should do is let's talk about the minutes and then
Maybe someone shows up.
maybe.
What about West Street?
This is West Street, 17.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the other one.
17 West.
Mhm.
Darn, darn, darn. We made the site visit.
Yeah.
The minutes looked beautiful.
Right. The minutes look perfect. That's not going to consume much meeting time.
Oh, but I did notice that we did discuss on the Levitt Street house, the Hussey residence, that there was a little dip in the roof in the
Right.
rear gable.
That's right. Which you pointed out. So I have to say, I sent out the plans and until you get back to me, they cannot, I can't sign off. So, and Catherine suggested that the one elevation that shows the roof line the roof had to be lower. I think I sent that all to you.
So you told them.
I did.
Okay.
So boys and girls, I have to have your feedback promptly because we're holding up 149 Levitt Street.
Right. Oh, so I'm the only one who gave feedback?
Yes, you did. You were the best.
No one else gave feedback? What's wrong with you?
No, you rock.
I did it about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, good. All right, that's good, Dan. And who else? All right. So I am very distressed that Jennifer and her husband are not here.
Do you want me to try and white page them? Let me white page them.
Yeah, see
if I can do
darn,
it.
darn.
I don't even know what that means.
You know, you go on.
Oh, you're gonna Google them.
She could
gonna
call
Google
411.
You could do that. That would be
No,
so
but-
efficient.
We're gonna ask Jeeves them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who has a landline?
I've got a landline.
Why not?
Oh, I talked to them this afternoon. I said, you must be here. And they said they would.
Why don't we do the minutes and then we can wait and see if they show up?
All right, let's do the minutes. Tracy's minutes are wonderful.
Where are you going?
I don't think they have a number. Isn't that's amazing, right? That I don't think they have a number.
No, they do, but that,
House number?
oh, it's 17.
Oh, maybe if I put that in, let's see if I can get it down.
Darn. I just don't understand this because let me see if I can get to my phone thing. So hold on, everybody.
Oh, I have a number, but that looks sort of fishy. Oh, you want to try this number?
Sure.
617-872-3320.
Okay.
I tried it and they didn't answer.
Did it go to
Just went to a generic voicemail, so I didn't
Yeah.
dare leave a voicemail.
yeah, so I think it's the say it again.
Oh, I lost it.
617-872-3320.
I think that sounds like the number I called earlier.
You
Oh,
try.
well.
Maybe if they recognize your number.
Yeah. All right.
You're in the spam jar.
Okay.
I call and it comes up spam risk.
Definitely spam risky. That's funny.
All right, say again, 617 what?
617-872-3320. While we have a minute, we were talking earlier about copper roofs and why they don't patina green anymore. They still do. They just take a lot longer because our air is a lot cleaner. So we have less acidic rainwater.
That's great.
That's great info.
Number didn't work.
Any guesses? Tracy might know the answer to this. Any guesses what they use to pre-patinate it outside on a roof to get it to go green really fast within like a year?
Paint.
Horse urine.
I was gonna say urine.
Goodness.
You have a vivid imagination. That's
super weird.
It works. Really well.
Seriously?
But it's hard to get the horses to cooperate.
It is. I mean, it's hard getting a horse on a roof,
Get
but
them
Yeah.
up on the roof.
No, but
Yeah.
That's a good one.
oh my God, seriously?
yeah.
Oh,
a
man.
Just wondering, it's Miss Tracy. Just wondering if you wanted to take a formal vote on the minutes while we're.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Tracy.
Yeah.
You're so good.
I'll make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second? All
Second.
right. Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
All right.
Carol, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye for me. Minutes approved. That's 5-0s. This is like a record evening here.
Could
Wow,
we also
it
talk
is.
about the window idea I had that
Sure.
yeah, I had just brought up a concept of having a choice of windows people to choose from, a high level, a medium, and a low window choice, so that it reduces the discussion about windows and what they're going to use, and they just are handed the choices that are acceptable, that we're willing to. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think?
I got so as a person that moved to town and recently went through the board process, I was told anecdotally by the architect that we reached out to, the board basically unofficially had that already, which was, they said you can go Colby, Marvin, there were a couple, and so he kind of listed off.
We kind of do, but it
yeah.
might be nice to have and put it with our window info, our window education packet.
Sure.
I don't know.
All right. So who might want to do that? So that we'll have 3 ranges or 3 categories.
When you say high, medium, and low, do you mean cost, Catherine?
Yeah.
I was thinking cost.
I think given some of these wood windows, it's medium, high, and high. I don't know.
medium, super high.
Yeah, I mean, having priced them all out recently.
Yeah, you're right, Daniel.
Or at least maybe these are the choices that are acceptable. I mean, I guess we. Yes. Those, it's not as clear to me exactly what those are. I guess that's
the only downside I see to it, right, is that there's a lot of new window manufacturers out there, right? And sometimes people go to really small custom shops. And do we start confining, if we say these are the 4 or 5 that we like, do we start, restricting that creativity process of people finding new manufacturers that make great products?
That's true. That's a good point. Hey, I just want to say, Daniel, the fact that you actually joined this commission not too long after we reviewed your house.
I wanted something from Andrea. She tricked me.
Or not so highly of the experience.
I mean, no, it's about what I expected. But then again, I'm, somebody that works does this as a profession. So I've worked with the city of Boston and, other municipalities. And so, the process, I've had a lot worse. I mean, I worked on the Longfellow Bridge and we did about 25 different mortar mock-ups before they were approved.
Oh, God.
So if you don't do that to anybody, I think you're off to a good start.
Well, I was convinced, talking to Daniel, with his experience in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because I'm familiar with all the buildings there. And so we had nice conversations about what had been done there. So that was what convinced me that Daniel should be part of what we do here.
And a great addition.
Yeah, I think so.
But I will, for the record, if I can work this in the meeting minutes, Tracy, she did trick me a little bit because she said, oh, well, you have to get interviewed by the select board and there's a process. And all of a sudden it was just poof, overnight, I was appointed.
Well, they had a sense.
I sent
if you go by the wonderful motion
recommendation.
Yeah.
I think we're still down a few members, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
How many?
I think 4.
4, yeah. alternates. So, and I still am sad. John D'Angelo, unfortunately, there's a personal situation that prohibits him from, otherwise he would have. So, but I'm not giving up yet. All right, well, I guess,
All right, I think we're done.
sadly, I think we're done, yeah.
So
But
adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I do say one thing though, Catherine, you're probably right. As I joined this committee and flipped through the guidelines, there are probably things that could be reevaluated or updated in there.
You think? Yeah.
So, having recently thumbed through them just to get familiar, I'm happy to send an email out with some thoughts on things that we might want to consider.
Perfect.
That would be great.
That would be great. And then we can just meet
And as
talk
far
about
as
those.
open meeting law, would Dan would send that such an email to you, Andrea, and you might
Yes, that
resend.
is correct.
Yep.
Why don't we set up a meeting sometime with no applicants before?
Just a business meeting.
And just do business. We have a lot of other things to talk about. Like, what are the procedures for getting a hardship ruling from us?
Mm-hmm.
And also that's that could, I just wonder, when does the executive order expire that we may have to go back in person?
Oh, I have no idea. That's a good question.
Don't quote me. I think it might be through July.
Okay.
Aha. All right.
I'm happy to meet on Zoom, but I just if the end was in near was in sight, I wanted to prepare myself.
There's a lot of conveniences about Zoom. You can check the Google Maps and Street View. You can, I think there's some pluses. So I don't know during our meetings if we can bring our computers and look at Google Maps and that kind of thing, or if that's a no-go.
No, I think we could.
You can.
I mean, I deal with City of Boston way too frequently. I think, they run a much tighter ship. I've mentioned this to Andrea. They put up stop signs and they put counter clocks for public, statements, 30 seconds for each, a butter and stuff like that. They're much stricter, but at the same time, they've realized that they think they're getting more public involvement with the Zoom. So I think the committees and the commissions will be going back to meeting in person, but I think it's going to be some type of hybrid system going forward. So I don't know how that works with the media group that we work with, and if we have, there's suddenly a screen in the room or something like that where we can see things, but that's how I see Boston going.
Right, like a big screen with the abutters or Google Map or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Andrea, do we have a choice about staying as a Zoom commission, or do we have to go back in person? I'm sitting here in my jammies, by the way.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I will find out for us, okay? I mean, I'm just, we're happy, I think, as we are, but.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about meeting in person. And
that's true.
It's the chit chat, the little after meeting, early meet. There's the little connections you make.
Quirky things we say, right?
Getting to know each other things.
I would say without our site visits, I would have found it hard to get to know you guys and kind of understand people's perspectives a little bit better. Walking the sites have been really helpful for that. If it only ever been on Zoom, it'd be tough.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I was only in 2 meetings before we went to Zoom, or 2 or 3.
Oh, wow.
No, I was more than that. But I remember Marianne being in California for a while, and she was really happy to see us all at a site visit one day.
That's right.
You're just a big
very right.
Yeah.
It's like Zoom meetings sort of muffle my mouth sometimes. And it's just not, in person, it's just easier to convey and facial expressions come across better inside. I just like in-person visits much better.
Yeah.
If I was still working, I would be one of those people who went into the office. Easy to say from my vantage point of not working, but
A lot more pressure on the face as you're talking. You feel like everyone is.
yeah.
All right. So as we come to 9 o'clock, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Justin made the motion. I hear Carol second. Daniel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
That's an aye for me. Meeting adjourned.
Nice
Very
meeting.
good. Nice one.
Thank you, everyone.
See
Good
you next
evening,
week.
Thank
everyone.
you, Tracy, Miss Tracy. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Next
Bye.
week.
I like your sweatshirt,
Bye.
Dan.
We'll see you next week.
Next week.
2 weeks or next week?
Next week.
No, next
Oh,
week.
okay.
Next week, Daniel. Don't miss it. We need you to do those motions.
Oh, thanks. Bye.
Night, everybody.